Teresa's cheeks were flushed, eyes glistening with unshed tears, her gaze heartbreakingly alluring. I thought to myself, no man could possibly resist her like this. If I hadn't seen what happened tonight, I might have felt sorry for how miserable she looked, drunk and barely holding herself together. But just moments ago, she had been curled up in another man's arms, weeping as she told him she loved him. Now, as faint whimpers echoed from the back seat, my chest felt like it was caught in a vice, a slow, dull ache pressing down on my ribs. After helping Teresa upstairs, I stayed downstairs and lit a cigarette. It was the only thing that could settle the storm in my head. Half an hour ago, she called me. It was her bachelorette party tonight. I figured she'd be out late celebrating with her girlfriends. I'd already braced myself for that. So when she said she was drunk, I didn't think much of it. I just hit the gas a little harder, wanting to get to her faster. I didn't expect that getting there a few minutes early would mean walking straight into a nightmare. Under the dim, shadowy light of the bar entrance, I saw her nestled in a man's arms. He lifted his head slightly, just enough for me to see his face. And in that single moment, my heart clenched. I knew him. Chris, her first love. She still kept a photo of them in a silver frame on her nightstand, like a relic from a life I wasn't part of. Before I could even process it, I heard her soft, slurred voice. Chris, please don't leave me. She was drunk, rambling. But her eyes, God, her eyes, were glued to him like he was the only thing anchoring her in that spinning world. My face darkened as I stepped forward, ready to pull Teresa out of his arms. But before I could even touch her, she started flailing violently. No. I don't want to leave you. Don't go, please. My hand froze midair. Chris glanced at me with a faint smile and gently ran his fingers through her hair. Your fiancé's here to take you home. Let him, okay? The word fiancé finally seemed to pierce the fog in her brain. She looked at me, really looked at me, as if she was finally recognizing who I was. But the next second, she turned her head away and mumbled. He's not my fiancé. Just some driver I hired. Then she looked back at Chris and whispered, stop teasing. You know I've only ever loved you. There's no way I'd marry anyone else. And with that, she kissed him. Softly. Reverently. Like he was her only love in the world. Chris's smile widened, smug and cruel. His eyes met mine, full of mockery. He carried Teresa right past me, shoulder slamming into mine so hard I nearly lost my balance. He laid her gently in the back seat of my car, then looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. Make sure to send her home safe and sound, he sneered. She's going to feel terrible tomorrow, just take care of her, okay? I walked around to the driver's seat, my mouth half open, ready to say something, anything, but nothing came out. What was there to say? My fiancée, in front of her first love, had all but disowned me. Even the way she looked at me was laced with disgust. Like she couldn't wait to erase me from her life. But, I am her nominal fiancé. A single raindrop landed on my face, snapping me out of the memory like a slap. Moments later, the sky gave way, rain pouring down in sheets, drenching everything in its path. I rushed back inside, soaked through before I even reached the door. As soon as I stepped into the apartment, I saw her, Teresa, perched casually on the couch. She looked completely sober. Clear-eyed. Not at all like someone who just had too much to drink. When she noticed me, she raised an eyebrow in surprise, then offered a lazy explanation, like none of it really mattered. I just didn't feel like explaining things to Chris, so I told him you were the driver. He just got back to the States, and I didn't want to upset him. If you're gonna be mad at me. Don't blame him. She said it all so casually, without a hint of guilt. I searched her face for even the smallest sign of remorse. There was none. You told him you loved him. My voice came out rough and cracked, barely more than a whisper. It felt like I hadn't spoken in hours. Maybe longer. That made her laugh. Oh, that? She said with a dismissive wave of her hand. It's a joke between us. We always say that. It's just how we talk, like a thing between close friends. I wouldn't expect you to understand. And with that, she turned and walked off to her room, like the conversation was over. She never once noticed the rain dripping from my clothes. Never once saw the blood trailing down my palm. After showering, I stood in the bathroom for a while, letting the steam fade before picking up my phone. I typed out a message to my boss. I am considering returning to my hometown. I may submit my resignation soon. The reply came almost instantly. You're from LA, right? Coincidentally, we're opening a new branch there. Want to be part of it? I stared at the word branch office on the screen, frozen. And then, like a flash, I thought of Teresa again. She leaned in and kissed Chris as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Every ounce of hesitation evaporated in that moment. I closed my eyes. And when I opened them again, I finally saw everything clearly. I'm willing to go anytime. If you'd asked me back when I was standing in the rain, smoking outside her building, I might have told you I needed time to figure out how to move past all this, how to forgive her, how to convince myself to keep loving her despite the ache. But after hearing her drunken confession, I didn't need time. I needed out. All the memories I clung to, all the things I once believed proved she loved me, they didn't stand a chance against the truth. The truth was, Teresa didn't love me. She loved Chris. Always had. She bought me dozens of limited edition sneakers, even though I never wore them. I wore suits to work. Leather shoes. Dress codes and corporate meetings. Those sneakers just sat in the back of the closet, collecting dust. Tonight, when I saw Chris, he was in full athletic gear, wearing one of those very same sneakers on his feet. The exact pair Teresa once gave me. It hit me then. Every strange detail I once brushed off, every uneasy thought I tried to silence. They'd all been pointing in the same direction, whispering the same truth. She never saw me. Not really. I was just a placeholder. A mistake she hadn't fixed yet. So why was I clinging so hard to someone who never truly chose me? If love is one-sided, then let it go. I'm done fighting for something that was never mine to begin with. The next morning, Teresa was gone. In just one more day, we were supposed to get married. Technically, today was the day we were scheduled to take our wedding photos. I didn't text her, because I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't going through with the wedding. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. When I woke up, I noticed several missed calls from Teresa. As soon as I called back, her voice exploded through the line. Why aren't you here yet? We need to take pictures today. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting for you? Caught off guard, I instinctively agreed and asked where I should meet her. While I waited, I logged into the work account I used for managing professional contacts. I wasn't thinking about her, just wanted to check if anything urgent had come up. That's when I saw it. A new post on Teresa's social feed. She was wearing a champagne-colored gown, makeup flawless, a small crown perched perfectly on her head. She looked radiant. Like something out of a bridal magazine. Beside her stood another man in a matching champagne suit, boyishly handsome, with a soft, elegant smile. Sunlight streamed down around them. They looked like a perfect couple, glowing in the light. The caption read, "There's nothing better than being with the one you love." I switched back to my personal account. The post wasn't there. That's when it hit me, Teresa had blocked my main account from seeing it. She must have forgotten that she also added my work account. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the screen. I didn't even know what to feel anymore. Much less what to say. After a long silence, I slipped my phone back into my pocket and watched the scenery roll past the window as the car made its way to the shoot location. When I arrived, Teresa was still in the same champagne-colored dress from the photo. But Chris had changed, now wearing a tracksuit, casual and smug as ever. The moment Teresa saw me, her smile disappeared. Her lips jutted into a pout, and her perfectly shaped brows knit together in frustration. Once upon a time, I would have rushed to comfort her. Today, I just stood there, expressionless, meeting her gaze without a word. "Do you have any idea how long I waited for you?" she huffed, stomping toward me. If Chris hadn't stayed with me, I would have lost it. I met her complaint with a quiet, even-toned reply. "Yeah. Well. I'm sorry." Something about the calmness in my voice made her frown deepen. But she didn't press further. With a slight roll of her eyes, she handed me a champagne-colored suit jacket, her voice curt and impatient. "This is the one I picked out for you. Go change, will you? We're already behind schedule." I looked down. It was the exact same suit Chris had been wearing earlier. Across the lawn, Chris caught my eye and flashed a triumphant smile, like this was all some kind of inside joke he was winning. Still, I said nothing. I just took the suit and went to change. When I came out of the dressing room, I realized the jacket sleeves barely reached my wrists, and the hem of the coat had a tear along the seam. The entire outfit fit like it had been made for someone else, someone smaller, someone not meant to be in this picture. I looked ridiculous. Like a last-minute stand-in at someone else's wedding. And maybe, that's exactly what I was. Teresa masked her guilt with a burst of anger. How did you even manage that? Did you tear the suit on purpose or something? Honestly, maybe we shouldn't even take these pictures. This is embarrassing. I knew exactly whose idea this little stunt was. So I looked her straight in the eyes, voice cold and steady. You forgot to block my work account when you posted on social media this morning. What? She blurted out. Her face shifted, something flickered across it, a flash of panic she tried to hide. Her eyes darted away, and her voice faltered, suddenly unsure. I didn't stop. How would a brand new suit end up with a burnt hole in the hem? And the size? It's not even close to mine. If it wasn't someone's idea of a childish joke, then you tell me, who else would have done something like this? Whatever guilt she'd been trying to bury vanished the moment I said Chris's name. She glanced at the ruined seam, then over at Chris, who stepped forward with the kind of wounded expression that only made this worse. Teresa, come on. I'd never do something like that, he said, playing the innocent card. You know better than anyone, I just want you to be happy. Why would I sabotage anything? Before he could finish, Teresa cut him off with a quick wave of her hand. She turned to me, voice low but firm. It's just a misunderstanding, she said. Chris isn't that kind of person. I hadn't expected her to defend me. Hadn't expected her to believe me, either. So I just nodded, like it didn't matter. But the truth was, the suit was ruined. There was no getting around that. In the end, Teresa had no choice but to pull out her credit card and pay for the suit herself. Chris flashed me a middle finger from across the lot, mouthing the words. Yeah, I did it. So what? Watch how fast I get Teresa to dump your ass right here. And just like that, he vanished. 1 second he was there, grinning like the devil himself, and the next, he was gone. Teresa turned around, holding the receipt from the suit. When she didn't see him, her whole expression shifted. Panic. Real panic. For someone usually so poised and aloof, she suddenly looked completely undone. Where's Chris? She demanded, voice rising. What did you do? Did you scare him off? I didn't answer. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, eyes flicking downward for a split second, and then, without another word, she grabbed the suit and stormed off. Right before she left, she threw one last look over her shoulder, cold and sharp as glass. We're getting married anyway. Who cares about some stupid photos? We can take them later. Chris needs me right now. And with that, she was gone. Marching off without a second glance. I watched her disappear down the sidewalk, then finally turned away and called a cab home. Back at the apartment, I began to pack. I didn't have much. Most of the clothes in the closet were things Teresa had bought for me, track jackets, flashy sneakers, athletic gear I never liked and rarely wore. I was pushing 30. I didn't need to dress like a high schooler. But that never stopped her. Thinking about it now, maybe she was dressing me for someone else. Maybe she was always trying to make me into someone I never was. I left every single gift behind. Took only what was mine, 2 dress shirts, a laptop, a towel. Just enough to leave with dignity. Once everything was packed, I took one last look around the apartment Teresa and I had shared for years. We were supposed to move out at the end of the month, trade this rental in for the house I'd bought. Our new beginning. But now, I was leaving early. Alone. I'd already called the realtor and listed the house for sale. I didn't want it anymore. Didn't want the memories that came with it. That chapter was over. By the time I made it to the airport, I was so exhausted I crashed into sleep the moment I sat down at the gate. Later that night, my phone rang. Teresa. I'm not coming home tonight, she said. But don't worry, I'll be there on time for the wedding tomorrow. Okay, I replied, my voice flat and unreadable. She hesitated, then continued, almost as if trying to justify herself. You know how Chris is. He needs me right now. He's in a really dark place, and if I leave him alone tonight, I honestly think he might do something, jump off a building or worse. I can't just let him die. Okay, I said again. Something about my silence must have irritated her, because her voice turned sharper. Can you, for once, think about someone else besides yourself? You're marrying me tomorrow. Chris has nothing. No one. And you just. I hummed softly. That was it. She snapped. Hung up without another word. I rolled over in my seat and went right back to sleep. The next morning, right before my flight, I was so bored that I scrolled through my phone. My screen filled with nothing but Teresa's social media posts. After what happened that night, it was like Teresa wanted me to see everything. She stopped hiding her posts from me and flooded her feed with updates, one after another. Barbecue night with the one I love most. Cried so hard before the wedding, his eyes are still swollen. He's peeling shrimp for me. 3 separate posts for one backyard dinner. The photos were full of color, filters, angles, carefully arranged dishes, but all I could see was the desperation. The captions dripped with affection so heavy it almost felt theatrical. I stared at them, and instead of hurting, I laughed. Somewhere between the emojis and overexposed shrimp pics, it was like a hand reached inside my chest and wiped it clean. Whatever love I had for Teresa, it was gone. Just like that. There was no anger left. No sadness. She didn't stir anything in me anymore. The past was over. The feelings, gone, scattered like ashes in the wind. Right as I was about to board my flight, my phone lit up. Teresa. I declined the call. No hesitation. And I didn't look back as I stepped onto the plane. Hours passed before I landed and finally turned my phone back on. A company driver was waiting at the arrival's curb. To my surprise, it was Vanessa, an old colleague from the firm. We exchanged the usual greetings, making small talk through the first half of the drive. Only when the city started rolling past the windows did I finally have the energy to check my phone. Nearly 20 missed calls. All from Teresa. The latest message had come in just minutes before. Running from the wedding? Real brave, Neil. Be back by tonight. You owe me an explanation, in person. Each word sharp and seething. Cold fury, typed out in perfect punctuation. I sent her a calm, measured text. We're done. Please don't contact me again unless it's something important. She replied almost instantly. Done? Says who? I never agreed to break up with you. The moment I read that, I blocked her number without hesitation and leaned back against the seat to rest. From the driver's seat, Vanessa glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Everything okay? Trouble with your girlfriend? I shook my head. Then, a second later, nodded. Not anymore. We broke up. She didn't continue talking. Just nodded once and kept driving in silence, the city lights gliding past the windows. Maybe staying busy was the best thing I could have done. For the next 2 weeks, I worked non-stop. Long hours, no breaks, days that blurred together. The grind was exhausting, but it kept me grounded. Gave me focus. And slowly, the emotional wreckage started to settle. Compared to those first few days after walking away from Teresa, I felt almost normal again. Until I saw her. It was late. The moon was high, casting a pale glow across the parking lot in front of the office. And there she was, sitting on the curb like she'd been waiting all night. Teresa. I had no idea how she'd found me. But there she was, looking up at me with dark circles under her eyes, shadows that hadn't been there before. For a second, I hesitated. Was this really the same woman who used to carry herself with such cool indifference? She looked up. Our eyes met. Neil, she said, standing slowly. Come home with me. She reached out her hand, like nothing had changed. Like we were still us. If you come back now, she said softly, I'll forget everything you've done. I'll forgive your childish mistakes. I stepped back. Put distance between us. Her hand hung in the air, suspended, reaching for something that no longer existed. Just like the night I once tried to hold her. Just like me, left hanging, empty. I didn't recognize her anymore. If you're in love with Chris, then go be with him, I said calmly. Us breaking up, that's a good thing. I'm setting you free. Teresa pressed her lips together, slowly lowering her hand. We stood there in silence. I wasn't sure how long passed before she finally spoke, just as I started to turn and leave. You're just jealous of Chris, aren't you? She took a step closer, her voice tighter now, like she was trying to hold on to something slipping away. Chris said all we had to do was give you some space, let you cool off. He said you'd come running back on your own. If I didn't love you, Neil, I wouldn't have wasted my time coming all the way here just to find you. What more do you want from me? Isn't this enough? I wanted to tell her, no, it wasn't enough. I wanted to say I wasn't pathetic enough to beg for love. But all that came out was quiet. Steady. Teresa, I don't want to love you anymore. So yes, this breakup is real. And final. I never needed your forgiveness. That was all in your head. You came here on your own, thinking I'd be waiting. Maybe that was the blow that finally hit her. She sucked in a sharp breath and stumbled back a few steps, like the words had knocked the air out of her lungs. Then, realizing she'd let something show, she snapped upright, her voice suddenly loud and brittle. Fine, Neil. Even if you come crawling back, I won't give you another chance. Whatever, I said flatly. And with that, I turned and walked away, without looking back. Triggered by something, maybe my indifference, maybe her own desperation, Teresa suddenly rushed forward and grabbed my arm. Neil, there's nothing going on between me and Chris. Why won't you believe me? Even before the words finished leaving her mouth, her phone buzzed violently in her hand. She glanced at the screen. And just like that, the grip she had on me slipped, her fingers falling away. I didn't wait for her to answer. I turned and kept walking, faster this time. No one was going to stop me now. As I walked away, I could still hear fragments of her voice behind me. I'll be right there. Don't worry. Of course. Chris. The same Chris she'd just sworn meant nothing to her. What a joke. Minutes ago, she was begging me to believe her. And now? One call from him and she was ready to run back like nothing had changed. Her words meant nothing anymore. Just empty lines from a play she didn't even believe in. That night, my body finally gave in. Out of nowhere, a high fever hit me like a train. I could barely move. The next morning, Vanessa stopped by to drop off some project files and found me barely conscious on the couch. She didn't ask questions, just helped me up, got me into her car, and drove straight to the hospital. I coughed a few times as we pulled up outside the ER. Thanks, I murmured. If you hadn't shown up, I might have just stayed on that couch until it was too late. Vanessa offered a shy smile but didn't say anything. Just helped me out of the car. Later, while I was lying in the hospital bed, I finally checked my phone. Apparently, someone had sent me a few picture messages the night before. I opened them. There was Teresa, sitting beside Chris, her hand gently resting over his. Chris was in bed, clearly sick, pale but smirking. Beneath the photo was a message. Teresa was supposed to come see you. But I got sick, so she booked the first flight back to take care of me. If you have any decency left, you'll stay away from her. Teresa's out of your league. And just like that, I was dragged backward. Back into memories I'd tried hard to bury, memories from years ago that suddenly didn't feel so far away anymore. I'd been this sick once before, a real close call. Back then, it was exhaustion from work that had pushed me over the edge. I was burnt out, running on fumes, and my body just gave up. Teresa was around, kind of. She came when she could, but her schedule was packed. I remember feeling so fragile, so raw from the fever that I just wanted her near me, even if it was selfish, even if I knew it wasn't fair to ask. Still, she said she'd stay. That night, she stepped outside to take a call. When she came back in, she couldn't sit still. I was lying on my side, pretending to sleep, but I could feel the glow of her phone lighting up the room behind me. I turned just slightly and saw her face bathed in blue light, her fingers flying across the screen, her expression pulled tight with worry, and something else. Sadness, maybe. She thought I was asleep. Moments later, she slipped out the door. It wasn't until days after that I found out. She had a first love. A hidden one. And that night? That was the night he left the country. Looking back now, it all adds up. It had always been there, under the surface. Waiting for the right moment to resurface. She left me once. And now she'd done it again. No hesitation. Just then, a voice cut through my thoughts. I brought you some broth. You should eat something light while you're recovering. I blinked, surprised to see Vanessa still there. She opened a thermos lunchbox and steam slowly rose from the bottle. She gently placed a spoon in, careful not to spill a drop. Something stirred in me, sharp and unexpected. I didn't think anyone would go out of their way for me like that. Especially not someone I barely knew. All the comfort I had begged Teresa for. And here it was, in the hands of a quiet colleague who owed me nothing. Maybe it wasn't that I was impossible to love. Maybe she just didn't love me enough. I managed a faint smile and took the broth from her hands. Vanessa had somewhere to be, so after making sure I was eating, she left without fuss or lingering. But the warmth stayed behind. Thanks to prompt treatment, I recovered quickly. I never blocked the number that sent me those picture messages. And he never stopped sending them. It was like he couldn't wait to show off, couldn't resist the urge to prove how much Teresa loved him, like he needed me to see it, frame by frame. She took me to an amusement park today. We even did the couple's meal. She gave me your wedding rings. Told me you were nothing to her, trash, actually. If I were you, I'd be miles away by now. Why are you still bothering with her? I read every message. All of them. Not out of curiosity, but because I needed the reminder. A clear, brutal record of how far I'd fallen, and how far I wouldn't allow myself to fall again. Facing that kind of truth. It leaves scars. But it also builds armor. A month passed. Our department exceeded its sales targets, and we earned ourselves a company-sponsored dinner to celebrate. It had been so long since I'd done anything like that, I actually felt a flicker of excitement. Back when I was with Teresa, I gave up every gathering, every event, every casual hangout, just so I could be there when she needed me. The last time I'd gone to something like this, had to be years ago. The night of the dinner, I drank more than I meant to. We took a few group photos, someone joked, someone laughed, and before I knew it, I was smiling in a picture I didn't hate. I posted it to social media and tucked my phone back in my pocket. The drinks kept coming, the noise around me softening into a blur. My head swam, my body warm and unsteady. Vanessa walked beside me, steadying my arm as she helped me toward the car service we'd called. And that's when I saw her. Teresa. She stood there, stone-faced, like a volcano seconds before eruption. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, half convinced I was hallucinating from the alcohol. How the hell did she know I was here? Vanessa glanced at her, then at me. Is that your ex? I turned my head away, completely unfazed. Didn't even bother to look Teresa in the eye. No idea. Don't know her. Maybe it was the firmness in my tone, clean, final, that set her off. Teresa surged forward and grabbed my sleeve, her voice low and trembling with fury. Don't know me? Have no idea who I am? She glanced at Vanessa, eyes filled with venom. So this is why you haven't come back. You're out here with another woman behind my back. Even drunk, I had the upper hand. It didn't take much effort to shake her off, just one strong pull and her hand slipped free. She stumbled backward a few steps, thrown off by her own momentum. And then she snapped. Right there, in front of a dozen co-workers and strangers, she let it all out. If I hadn't forgotten to block you, I would never have seen those pictures on your social media, she yelled. You were going to sleep with her tonight, weren't you? If I hadn't come to LA for a business trip, I'd still be in the dark, wouldn't I? You planned to hide this from me. Her words hit like a grenade. Vanessa's face drained of color. I took a deep breath, and just like that, the haze of alcohol cleared from my head. Teresa, we broke up. A long time ago, I said, voice steady. What I do now has nothing to do with you. And not everyone operates the way you do. Vanessa is just my coworker. I turned to Vanessa and gave her a small shake of the head, a quiet signal to leave. Vanessa gave me a concerned glance but didn't say a word. She didn't want to get caught in the mess. She slipped away quickly, leaving Teresa and me alone in the cooling night air. The breeze hit, and with it came a wave of clarity for Teresa. Her flushed face paled. Her fury cracked. She blinked hard, eyes going glassy with tears. Neil, that's not what I meant, she said softly, her voice suddenly trembling. I didn't mean to come at you like that. I haven't seen you in so long. And when I saw you standing next to her, I lost it. A while ago, those tears might have shaken me. They might have made me stop. Reconsider. Feel sorry. But not now. Not after the string of texts Chris had sent me, photos, updates, taunts. Not after knowing how fine she was without me, how easily she'd moved on. All this? The trembling voice, the tears? It was just another attempt to pull me back in. Teresa had always known how to use my heart against me. It doesn't matter whether there's anything between me and Vanessa, I said, my voice colder than I expected. It's not your business anymore. We broke up. So stop acting like you still have the right to play the girlfriend. The moment the words left my mouth, I realized how sharp they sounded. How final. Teresa flinched as if I'd slapped her. She staggered back a few steps, eyes wide, disoriented. You've never talked to me like this before, she whispered. All this because of Chris? You're really going to treat me like this because of him? I looked at her, and realized something. She still hadn't let go. In her mind, none of this was her fault. Not Chris. Not the betrayal. To her, she was still the victim in a story she kept rewriting. And that was exactly why I had to walk away. For good. I let out a small laugh and pulled out my phone. Then, without a word, I began scrolling through the string of messages Chris had sent me over the past few weeks. One by one, I flicked through them, holding the screen where Teresa could see. Under the dim glow of the streetlights, her face grew paler with each swipe. By the time we reached the final message, she looked like she might collapse. I didn't know, she whispered, barely audible. Maybe she meant it. Maybe, for once, she actually meant it. It was the first time she'd ever said sorry to me. Too bad I didn't need it anymore. I looked her straight in the eye, steady and calm. Not every apology fixes things, I said quietly. At least not for me. Not now. Since that night, Chris had gone silent. No more texts. No more taunts. For once, he stayed in his lane. But peace never lasts. The day I got home from work, I spotted him outside my apartment building. Eyes bloodshot. Shoulders tense. My gut twisted on instinct, I took a step back. He saw me instantly and started walking fast in my direction. He stopped just a few steps in front of me. What the hell did you say to Teresa? What? I underestimated you. I didn't expect that you could change her mind even though we were so far apart. I blinked, stunned. Hadn't even opened my mouth before his fist came flying at me. The first punch caught me off guard, but he lacked weight, lacked control. I leaned aside just enough for the blow to glance past me. He cursed under his breath, frustrated, and started swinging again, wilder now, erratic. My patience snapped. The fire inside me, doused for so long, finally flared. This time, I didn't just defend myself. I hit back. He was no match for me. Within moments, I had him bruised and bloodied, stumbling backward with a split lip and swelling around his eye. But even as he wheezed, he still tried to come at me again. That's when I dropped my voice, cold and sharp as ice. Try me one more time, and I swear, I'll give you 1,000 different ways to lose. And every one of them will count as self-defense. He froze. His breathing ragged, his fists trembling in the air. And then, just as he lowered his arms, a woman's scream cut through the tension behind us. Teresa. She came running over, eyes wide as she caught sight of the scrape on my cheek. Truth was, I was barely scratched. His punches had little weight, more anger than impact. But Teresa looked at me like I'd been beaten half to death. She didn't even glance at Chris. He stood off to the side, holding his face, nose red and swollen, looking like a kicked puppy. Teresa, he hit me, Chris whined. It hurts. Teresa finally turned to him. And to everyone's surprise, including mine, she slapped him. The sound echoed in the space between us. Her voice was low, steady. Fierce. Neil's not the kind of man who throws the first punch. If he hit you, you had it coming. She turned back to me, her eyes softening with something I hadn't seen in a long time, concern. Regret. Pulling a tissue from her bag, she gently dabbed at the sweat on my forehead. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for you to get hurt. Not again. I didn't know what stunned me more, her defending me in front of Chris, or the tenderness in her voice now. Chris stood in stunned silence, humiliated, his pride crumbling in real time as Teresa ignored him completely. I didn't care to stay for whatever meltdown he was about to have. I turned and walked away. But Teresa followed. Trailing behind me, her voice dropped into something softer, pleading. Please don't shut me out, Neil. I finally see things clearly now. Chris, he manipulated me. He knew exactly how to get into my head. I was tricked. I was vulnerable. I'm not the villain here, you have to see that. You were always the one who loved me the most. I know that now. And I love you too, I do. We can't let someone like him ruin what we had. Her words tumbled over each other, desperate to land somewhere they could still matter. Then I stopped walking. Even after everything had come to light, Teresa still didn't believe she was in the wrong. Of course she didn't. That was just who she was. Teresa, I said flatly, how many times do I have to say it? There's no future for us. None. The way you hurt me, the things you did. I can't even look at you without feeling disgusted. I'd rather stay single for the rest of my life than ever go back to someone like you. She didn't respond. Just kept walking beside me, all the way to my apartment building. When we reached the front door, Vanessa was already there, holding a folder of documents from work. And that's when Teresa snapped, again. Just like that night at the bar. Her voice shot up, sharp and frantic. "It's her, isn't it?" she yelled. "You hate me because of her. You won't take me back because you've already fallen for someone else. So no matter how many times I apologize, none of it matters. You never intended to forgive me. God, Neil, you're so cruel. Cruel." She called me cruel. The sheer absurdity of it struck me speechless. I actually laughed, just once, under my breath. But before I could even open my mouth, a calm, poised voice cut through the air. "Yes," Vanessa said smoothly. "We're together now." Her tone was light, almost sweet. No venom. No heat. But her words landed like a blade. Neil's never been the kind of man to bounce around. So no, he's not giving second chances to someone who threw him away. And that whole, crying ex, wins every time thing? That only works on people without a conscience. Teresa froze. The look on her face was pure disbelief. And then, as the truth settled in, her composure cracked. She turned and ran, tears streaking down her face, heels clicking furiously against the pavement as she disappeared into the night. Why do you say that?" I murmured, scratching the back of my head, feeling oddly sheepish. Deep down, I knew Vanessa probably only said it to get me out of an awkward situation. And when she brought up that line about the ex who cries always wins, I suddenly remembered. That night I got drunk. I'd told her everything. Realizing that made me even more embarrassed. But Vanessa was still smiling. This time, it felt different. Warm. Genuine. "I just figured you could use a little backup," she said lightly. It wasn't a big deal. Besides, someone had to shut her down. Letting her keep clinging to you like that? Way too messy. She wasn't wrong. I definitely owed her for stepping in. "I'll treat you to dinner sometime," I offered. Vanessa nodded, then held out the folder in her hands. "You got off work so quickly that you forgot about these. They should be ready tonight, so I thought I'd bring them over to you." I took the folder, chuckling. "You're a lifesaver." "Seriously, thanks." She gave a little wave, then turned and headed out without any fuss. I stepped back into my apartment and glanced toward the window. The spot where Chris had been standing earlier was now empty. I let out a breath and finally ordered some takeout. While working through the files, I heard my phone buzz with a new message. "Give me a chance. I'll make it up to you." I didn't need to check who it was. I already knew. Teresa. I sighed and dragged the message straight to the trash. Didn't even hesitate. Teresa had always been the kind of person who gave up easily, 3 minutes of passion, and then she'd move on. So I didn't think much of it when she went quiet again. At least, not until a bouquet of flowers showed up at my office door. The delivery guy scratched his head awkwardly. "Client said it had to go directly to you. Also told me to pass along a message, if you don't like it, toss it." I accepted the bouquet, said thanks, and set it down on the floor beside my desk. By mid-afternoon, another package arrived, this time from a luxury menswear brand I frequented. I opened it to find a suit. Perfect cut. My style. My size. From the very store I always shopped at. Teresa was smart, she hadn't listed a return address. No way to send it back. That evening, I headed out of the building, holding the flowers and the box in one hand. And there she was. Waiting by the entrance like she had all the time in the world. She wore the soft yellow dress from the night we first met, her hair done just like it was then, the breeze catching the hem of her skirt. I walked up to her without expression, handed her the bouquet. She looked startled, maybe even a little hurt. "I have a girlfriend," I said plainly. "Please stop doing this." But instead of backing down, Teresa's eyes lit up with something close to triumph. "You're lying." I paused. Confused. "I've seen how you look at someone when you love them," she said. "And I've thought about it a lot. That woman, your coworker. There's no way she's your girlfriend. You wouldn't leave her standing out in the cold like you did that night." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She wasn't wrong. And the fact that she wasn't wrong, cut deeper than I expected. I placed the box with the gift back into her hands alongside the flowers. She didn't argue. Didn't flinch. Just held them both like she hadn't already lost. For weeks, Teresa kept her distance from me. Don't get too close. Not too far. Just hovering on the fringes of my life, never giving me a solid reason to push her away. A new tactic, maybe. I didn't catch on right away. Not until I realized, she wasn't just haunting my routine anymore. She was chasing me. For a full month, I saw her every day. And every day, a new gift appeared outside my apartment door, each one perfectly tailored to my tastes. Books I'd mentioned in passing. Whiskey from a brand I used to splurge on once a year. Even the exact headphones I broke 6 months ago and never replaced. The kind of attention, the kind of love, I used to beg her for. And now that she was giving it to me, I didn't want it anymore. I left every package unopened. Let them pile up. Just waited for the next time I'd see her in person, so I could hand them all back. But once that thought took root, something changed. Teresa disappeared. The gifts stopped. No more sightings. No more notes. Nothing. I didn't think too hard about it. Just assumed it was more of the same, her trademark short-lived obsession finally cooling off. 1 more month. That's all I needed. I was this close to the promotion I'd worked toward for years. All the overtime, the sacrifices, the silence, it was about to pay off. Leaving that city had changed everything. Or maybe it was just leaving her. Since then, everything in my life had finally begun to make sense. It was late. Office lights were off. The streets were quiet. I was the last one out. Crossing the final intersection before home, a car suddenly tore through the empty road, tires screaming as it surged toward me. I jumped back to the sidewalk, my heart pounding so hard it nearly hit me. Just as I caught my breath, the car swerved, hard. Rushing towards me again. This wasn't some reckless driver. This car was aiming for me. I backed away fast, but the street corner turned into a trap. A dead end. No doors. No exits. And as the headlights blazed closer, flooding the alley with white-hot light, my mind went completely blank. In that split second, just before the car hit, I froze. My body locked up, stiff with panic, like my feet had been buried in concrete. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The headlights blazed like a pair of sun-white eyes, blinding and inescapable. And then, something yanked me hard to the side. A burst of pain. A scream of metal. The car crashed with a thunderous roar just feet from where I'd been standing. If it hadn't been for that pull, I'd be under the wheels, just a smear on the asphalt. I gasped for air, heart pounding, limbs shaking uncontrollably. Only then did I realize, someone else was lying next to me. I turned. It was Teresa. She was covered in blood, red blooming across her dress, soaking into the fabric in deep, terrifying patches. She'd thrown herself between me and the car. Inside the wreck, the driver was slumped over the wheel, face mangled and lifeless in the glare of the shattered headlights. I didn't need to get closer to know who it was. Chris. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I called 911. Then the police. It was officially ruled an attempted murder. The man behind the wheel, bloodied, barely alive, was confirmed to be Chris. Investigators uncovered that Teresa and Chris had been fighting for days in the lead-up to the attack. Something had cracked. Something in him had turned. And that night, he tried to kill me. Teresa had sensed something was wrong. She followed him. And when it came down to it, she put herself between his rage and my life. The crash left her body torn with bruises and lacerations. She spent days in recovery. Chris didn't get off easy either. He spent the night in the ICU, clinging to life. But when it was over, and the evidence laid bare, Teresa pressed charges. There was no defense left. No way out. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. A year later, I sat across from Teresa in a quiet cafe. We were surrounded by the clinking of coffee cups, the low hum of people living ordinary lives. And for the first time in a long while, we talked about that night. She tried to sound casual, brushing it off with a light laugh. I guess I just felt like I owed you too much, she said, stirring her drink slowly. So I didn't think, I just grabbed you. I was quiet for a moment. The words thank you hovered on my lips, but I couldn't say them. Because truthfully, none of it would have happened if she hadn't been part of my life in the first place. After she was discharged from the hospital, Teresa never came looking for me again. If anything, she avoided me. Kept her distance like she finally understood what boundaries meant. I packed up every gift she'd ever sent, the unopened boxes, the handwritten notes, the tokens from a time I'd stopped believing in, and shipped them to her new address. Left nothing behind. Mutual silence, it seemed, had become our best version of peace. Across the table, Teresa kept swirling the straw in her drink, barely touching it. Her thoughts clearly somewhere else. I didn't break the silence. Then she spoke, softly, but with a clarity I hadn't heard from her in a long time. Maybe I've only just realized, loving someone isn't about weighing them down. She paused, then added in a voice that shook just slightly. I'm sorry for everything. I really am. And, you'll always be the person I loved most. I didn't respond to that last part. Just nodded once. We traded a few more polite lines, the kind of awkward pleasantries you exchange when you realize there's nothing left between you but history. I checked my watch. It's getting late, I said. If there's nothing else, maybe we don't need to see each other again. I wish you well. Her lips quivered. She bit them to keep from shaking and whispered, and I wish you, everything good. I didn't say anything back. Just gathered my things and stood to leave. At the cafe door stood a woman with a warm, easy smile, Riley. She was my business partner. She is also my girlfriend whom I have been with for just 1 month. She looked up when she saw me and waved, eyes lighting up. And as I walked toward her, I realized. This time, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking into something better. Riley slipped her arm through mine, her smile teasing and affectionate. She knew where I'd been. I hadn't hidden anything from her, not about Teresa, not about the past. I didn't believe in keeping secrets from someone I cared about. Silence only leaves room for suspicion. Neil, she said with a playful lilt, what are we eating tonight? She leaned in closer, eyes bright. Barbecue sound good? Feels like it's been forever since we had it together. I chuckled, reaching up to ruffle her hair gently. Sure. Whatever you're craving, I'm in. Maybe this was what closure looked like. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet choices, moving forward, one honest step at a time. Maybe this wasn't the end of a story. Maybe it was the beginning of something real.
I sat in the quiet of the room, watching as Neil walked away, step by step, farther from me. I couldn't look away. I wanted to memorize his silhouette, hold on to the shape of him as long as I could, because something told me I might never see him again. Why did he have to be so resolute, so unwavering when he let go? Sometimes, I can't help but blame him. Wish he'd regret it. Wish he'd come back and look at me one more time. But other times, I hope he never regrets it. I hope he stays happy. Because I love him. And when you really love someone, you want them to live well, even if it's without you. But I still wish, deep down, that he'd turn around. Just once. When I saw him earlier, with that girl, smiling, arms linked. God, I missed us. The way we used to be. The tears came fast. Hot. Unstoppable. If that one moment, if that one mistake, had never happened, we might have been happy now. Maybe we'd be planning a wedding. Maybe we'd already be married. Neil would have made a wonderful husband. I knew that. I always knew that. But I ruined it. I lost the one person who loved me purely, selflessly. And I'll never find that kind of love again.